Welcome to Trois Rivières, the fairgrounds, round the Hippodrome, and round 5 of the MAGNA Enduro Series. Vic Roeder along with John Powell.
Vic, it's not an Enduro Series, but it is here. 66 laps is more than a sprint, and a mandatory 60 seconds must be spent in the pits during a green flag racing.
There's racing in 3 classes. Let's begin in Grand Sport. First race, Mosport in May. Peter Lockhart, Nick Morant, the winner in their BMW M5.
Next is Montreal. This is Formula One, and this is the big time. Stéphane Veilleux in the Dicom Porsche won in the Porsche 968.
In Toronto at the Molson Indy, Richard Spenard, a late entry in his Porsche 924, started at the back of the field, came all the way through to pick up the checkered flag in his first ride of the season.
Mont-Tremblant, July, and it was Peter Cohen and Martin Guimont teamed up to win in the rain in the GM Goodwrench Camaro.
So after 4 races, Veilleux, your leader. Rolf van Engelbrecken and Terry McDonald-Cadieux, second and third, followed by Peter Cohen and Paul Duckworth.
In sport class, we've seen Benoit Theetge dominate, winning the first 3 races in his Honda, but Jocelyn Hébert won at Tremblant in his Eagle Talon. Theetge remains with a comfortable lead. Last year's winner was John Shirk. He's in third, followed by David White and Renald Amelin from Trois-Rivieres.
In touring class, so far the wins have been split between the 2 Nissan teams. Robert and Normand Boyer posted wins at Mosport in Montreal, but Barb Armstrong took the checkered flag in Toronto and Mont-Tremblant. Volkswagen, Honda, Chrysler have all made it to the podium as well. So after 4 races, it is Bob Armstrong in his Nissan, the leader by 10 points. Sauvedron Gudelain in his VW, followed by the Nissans of Boyer and Thornley in a Honda. And so now as they head into the 5th event of the season here at Trois Rivières, 26 cars are on the starting grid in the 3 different classes.
And a classic duel shaping up. We've got Porsche on pole and BMW beside it.
On the pole, it is Stéphane Veilleux. He was the winner in Montreal.
Yeah, I need to drive, smooth to keep the car in the track, and like today we won. I think we have the pole for the race, so I have 5 points, and it's a more point for the championship, so it's a good thing.
Alongside the BMW M5, Peter Lockhart, co-driven with Nick Morant. He says Trois Rivières can be tough.
This year at Trois Rivières, the race is an hour and a half long. It has been in the past a 1-hour race. That's going to make a big difference to the strategy of a lot of teams here, because this is a very tough circuit on the equipment. If you've been on the circuit here for half an hour, you think you've been on the circuit for 2 hours, because it's very busy.
Richard Spenard starts inside row 2, a numerous champion in different series in this country, now makes his home in Florida, returns for 3 races in the MAGNA Series.
Right now, doing the MAGNA Series, I mean, it's good. It's becoming a lot better. The competition is very interesting, and it's enjoyable for me to drive in it. So if we choose and pick the short race, which is the one I like to do, and we go Trois-Rivieres, Montreal, and Toronto, these are good venues. So it's been interesting.
Another veteran of Canadian motor racing is Jeff Lapsevich from Hamilton, Ontario. He'll start outside row 2 in his Camaro. Inside row 3, Scott Maxwell in his 0 Ford Mustang. Maxwell has tasted Trans Am this year. And then we have the first invader.
It's Stuart Jones from Massachusetts in a 92 Camaro, co-driven with John Heinrichsey. Heinrichsey is a development engineer from General Motors responsible for the new C5 Corvette.
And those are your top 6 in Grand Sport. While your top qualifier in sport class, Jocelyn Hébert. He will start 10th overall, currently 2nd in points behind Benoit Theetge. While your top touring qualifiers, well, they're the Boyer brothers. Robert will start his NX 2000 Nissan, 15th overall. Normand will take over the driving a little later as the field of 26 heads out here on what Peter Lockhart says is a very tough track.
A tough track, a very hot day, and tough competition.
The MAGNA Enduro Series on TSN is presented in part by Speedy Autoglass, over 160 locations across Canada. At Speedy, we care. By iTech, clearly the best protection in sight. By STP Engine Treatment, helps protect against engine wear start after start after start. And by Minidisc from Sony, the smaller recordable compact disc. The green flag when we come back. And we're on our final pace lap here at Trois-Rivieres as we run down the starting grid of 26 cars. And it's interesting to note here the number of names that people will see who we see in other series. There's a great deal of crossover between 1600, Enduro Series, and other forms of racing in this country.
You're right. There goes the number 3 of Greg Wilkins with that new windshield. I was going to say, the Dicom Porsche, driven by Stefan Veilleux, is sponsored by Peter Overing. Overing's been in motorsport for many years, a very loyal supporter and a Porsche guy. I mean, their hopes are high for this race.
Bob Armstrong, always a top competitor in his Nissan. And there you see in the 11th row, the Goodland brothers, Ron Goodland and his VW, currently in second place in touring points. 25 cars to take the green flag here at Trois-Rivieres. It is tight. There is no escape. There are walls all around.
The green flag drops and we have a start. It's Veilleux over the BMW and it's Spenard right behind into corner 1.
Stefan Veilleux will lead the BMW M5 with Spenard currently in third place through turn 1, now into the left-hander they call turn 2, and down through the Duplessis arch for the first time in turn 3.
And Lapage got snookered by that 92 Camaro, which is now fourth, right behind Spenard.
Filing their way through carefully.
Stefan Veilleux already has a margin over the BMW, which is now threatened as they come down at the end of Boulevard Carmel. Downshifts. You hear that? There's something wrong. You hear that squeal? Lockhart doesn't drive like that. Something's wrong. Maybe the brake pedal's changing. He didn't get that shift right. And he's slowing down. Look at that. And that Camaro from Massachusetts moved right up as well.
Stuart Jones getting by. So did Richard Spenard. Obviously some problems for the Mosport winner. Peter Lockhart in his BMW F5. And now we have several cars going off into the grass as they come up to complete their first lap here. The hairpin. Now the little S before they head out and back onto the Gilles Villeneuve straight. Here comes your leader. This is the pole sitter, Stefan Veilleux.
968 Porsche with a handy lead, being chased by a Spenard in a 944. No way that 944 should be as competitive. And look at that 92 Camaro up to third place.
Stuart Jones, followed closely by the 0 of Scott Maxwell.
And Lockhart is dropping back, all the way back from second down to sixth now. We're watching the action. The Camaro hounded by Scott Maxwell's Mustang. Veilleux from the canny Spenard. Now Spenard will always look for a trick way around, and he is definitely going to be threatening Veilleux pretty soon.
Well, you would think that Richard Spenard would know this particular circuit very well. He is from Quebec. He's raced several different Canadian series. And now Spenard quickly closing on the pole sitter, Veilleux.
The pressure is on Veilleux, and he knows that Spenard's behind him. Spenard, a very aggressive, very talented driver. And there is no quarter given here. There's Crow, 2 wheels off. That lets Maxwell go inside. And yes, Maxwell picks up a position, and Stewart drops down one more in that old Camaro.
He's now running in fourth place. Peter Lockhart now all over the back of his bumper, currently running in fifth. And if he does have, if Lockhart does, oh, good, look at this now as they go inside some of the back markers as Stefan Veilleux tries to use some of that back traffic, maybe to pull out a little bit of a lead, but Spenard follows him quickly.
You're absolutely right, but Spenard's smarter than that, and he found a way around that slower Honda Civic. Veilleux is gradually getting his lead whittled away by Spenard. There's going to be some fireworks pretty soon.
And remember, in endurance racing, there really is 3 races in one. So when you see cars going by others, certainly there are the faster cars, of which these are, as we ride along now with Richard Spenard.
Closing up at the end of Boulevard Caramel, and there's Veilleux just brushing the wall as he pulls away. Seems to have a pretty good exit speed as they go down to the Ryan hairpin.
You see the 150, 150, what are they all about?
Those are braking markers that give you the number of meters back. Notice how Spenard is going inside.
Richard Spenard, what a great move. Does he carry his speed through? He does. Richard Spenard takes over the lead from Stéphane Veilleux.
Veilleux inside. Ryan comes back across down the Villeneuve Straight. He's still looking for a way by, and there's another slower class car in the way. Maybe that's the brake. Veilleux goes inside. He has it. No, he doesn't.
Oh, my goodness. Hold it on. Hold on.
He stays there, side by side, goes across and inside, tries it. Veilleux had it. Vic, he gave it up. He gave
now
it up.
Duplessis coming through. Look at Spenard trying to close the door, and he does. There was just no more room under the Duplessis arch. The hand comes out from Richard Spenard as to say, what are you doing? Does he have a case?
No way. You know, Spenard, he's just trying to unsettle Veilleux. And it may work. Because if Veilleux, when he presented himself, had just stuck his nose and kept it there, he'd have taken it away. Spenard was loose just before the bridge. He couldn't take it away if Veilleux had stayed there. But, you know, Richard, he waves his fist, makes the guy feel like a jerk. That's all right.
What a great race, and we have so many to go. It's slated for 66 laps here in Trois-Rivieres. Interesting line there. Spenard gets 2 wheels off while Veilleux keeps them firmly on the pavement.
But it's concrete. Spenard's taking advantage there that Veilleux should be using. Spenard's using more track. He's getting faster exit speeds. Now look here. Veilleux catches right up. Gets right up on his tail. Now he'll try again. He'll maybe make that move. No. Maxwell is up to third. The BMW is still hanging in. And they come out, heading one more left turn. And there goes Veilleux again. He's got it. What's the matter here? I tell you, Veilleux's missed 2 good chances. He doesn't have enough through the bridge. And it's Spenard still leading down the straightaway. That is one quick Porsche 944 down the straightaway.
Now along the boulevard to Carmel. Under braking, will this be a possible spot that Veilleux can grab it back from Richard Spenard? The left-hander to the Rue de Talon.
He closed up quite a bit there, Vic. The battle is on. My money's on the 968 Porsche of Veilleux. He's got a chance.
In behind you see Scott Maxwell in the blue 0. That's the 94 Mustang. Now comes the BMW M5 of Peter Lockhart. But up front it is all Porsche 1 and 2.
Veilleux closing up under braking. As they go through the hairpin. Oh, so wide. No, no, no. Veilleux is not making the sort of driving that we need for him to get by Spenard. But he's close again as they go down the short Villeneuve Straight. Across the stripe, and he goes inside.
On board with Richard Spenard heading into turn 1 there, Stéphane Veilleux. Oh, he couldn't hold the line, couldn't hold it, and he'll take the exit road.
Veilleux gets into the dirt, he can't slow down, and all Spenard has to do is wait and drive off. That's the end of that.
Richard Spenard now comfortably in front, but really you have to question Stéphane Veilleux and the move he made there. As we look back now to our leader in sports class and right along with Jocelyn Hebert, currently second in point standings behind Benoit Theetge. But in this race, he is your leader after starting 10th overall, the fastest in sport class. Meanwhile, we jump to the touring leader, and that is Robert Boyer, who started 15th overall, and we're riding in his Nissan NX 2000. So 3 races in 1 here round the Hippodrome, the horse racing track in Trois-Rivieres. But there is your leader, looking for his 2nd win after he won at the Molson Toronto Indy, Richard Spenard. Welcome back to Trois-Rivieres. Vic Roeder along with John Powell as we watch the battle for 2nd and 3rd in Grand Sport. The 0 of Scott Maxwell, the Ford Mustang. The BMW M5, Peter Lockhart, he started on the front row beside Richard Spenard. We thought he might have brake problems early. He fell back to 5th. Now he's battling for 2nd. Could he have done something as he actually goes into second place now? Could have you fixed those problems?
I don't think so, but I'm beginning to think that maybe he didn't have brake trouble because he's doing all right as they go into the arch. There must be something else mechanically wrong with that car that causes it not to perform and then come back, and I don't know what it is. Lockhart's very good at adapting to whatever the car condition is, so he's probably adapted his driving style to suit whatever malady that Beach BMW has, and he's figured his way around it.
It's a beautiful car. We've watched it for a couple of years now. This BMW M5 winner at Mostport in race 1. Peter Lockhart will eventually give it up to his co-driver Nick Morant, while Scott Maxwell, he's slated to go the entire distance.
Well, there's nothing wrong with Lockhart right now as he pulls away, passing some slower cars. Maxwell cannot even remain in contact. And way back, we see the 1992 Camaro has dropped off the pace. Jeff Lapjevic has passed it, and we're back to the Mustang.
Interesting, a little bit of smoke coming out of the back of that Mustang of Scott Maxwell. Maybe a problem we'll look for in an endurance race such as this. And man, he is really fallen back.
It's a curious race because you can overdrive the car a bit. Very, very tight circuit, very, very hot day, and you can drive beyond the performance limits of the car.
All right, there is your leader. That is Richard Spenard with his comfortable lead now. Does she take something off?
Absolutely. You know, Spenard's cherry picking here. He does all the big races. He says he likes them. Well, of course, got to win in front of the crowd. But that 944 Porsche, you got to say, is indecently fast.
And indecently fast right here as he puts the lap on one of the touring cars. That's the 91 Honda CRX of Sylvain and Eric Laporte of Laval and Rosemère, Quebec. And as a driver in a race like this, you have to be so conscious of those other cars.
You have to pace yourself and you have to play the traffic, but it's always easier to do it when you're alone. Now this two Camaros, a Firebird and Jocelyn Hébert in the Talon, are having a great fight, and they're not pacing themselves. They're just going hard at it. And Hébert, in a lower class of car, because this track is so tight, is able to stay with these guys, not on the straightaways, but in the corners. So we've got a great battle going on here.
We're riding along with Jocelyn Hébert. He is the leader in sports class in his Eagle. Up ahead, Peter Cohen, Bruce Petroff, Paul Duckworth. And why now with this Eagle in a lower class be able to keep up with these fellows?
Well, first of all, number 2, Duckworth here, sure giving him a whole bunch of help because he's missing the apexes every second corner. Hébert is able to get around with a lighter car, get around these tight corners faster. And don't forget, because he's less weight, less mass, the brakes are better able to handle it.
Through turn 1, now watch him come up close to the wall. Nothing there, nothing there. And you're right, it's funny how the lines are so different.
Shouldn't be, but for some reason, maybe there's something wrong with Duckworth's car. Old Hébert is just doing a better job. Now, a little bit of a traffic jam as they come on to Boulevard du Carmel. Around the slower car, first it's Cohen, then Petroff in the Firebird, and then Duckworth, and there's Hébert just hanging on.
As they go by the 92 Honda Civic of Réjean Vincent in touring.
And at the end of Boulevard Carmel, they all close up, and quickly we're on board with Peter Lockhart. And this car sounds pretty sick.
Well, we wondered earlier what the problem. We thought it was brake, but this doesn't sound like brakes.
Now, when he backs off the gas, there's something really growling there. My guess is it's something to do with the driveline. And there is Stéphane Veilleux in the Dicom Express.
Well, remember, he started on the pole position, then made the mistake, and now he has moved back up into second place, but way up in front is the leader, of course, Richard Spenard.
But you got to give Veilleux credit. He went off up the escape road, backed up, started up again, and up to second place already.
Up to second place ahead of Scott Maxwell. That is it for Peter Lockhart, as they have put the car on the jacks, and they are going looking for some serious problems.
Peter Lockhart was right. He said it was tough. It was tough on his car, and he's out of the race.
Stéphane Veilleux in second place after running down the escape road and using all the brakes he had. And ironically, that is our high-tech report. We're going to look at brakes and how difficult it is on those brakes when you run a circuit such as Trois-Rivieres.
Hi, I'm Andre Godet. I'd like to explain to you why a Porsche is so efficient with brakes at a track like Trois-Rivieres or Ile Notre Dame, which is very demanding for brakes. Here I have in my left hand the disc of a 968, which is 32 millimeter thick and 12 and a half inch in diameter. Also, I have in here a brake pad. As you can see, the enormous size of that pad. And also, if you look on the car, we'll show you that there's extra cooling like you have none on any other car. The cooling on this bring a lot of air and can cool the brake. One factor very important is this car is only 2,900 pounds and it's got a perfect balance, meaning the four wheels are exactly the same weight. So that's why the brake is so efficient on this car. You compare that to a BMW M5, which is roughly around 3,700 pounds. They have to carry a lot of weight, and a track like Trois-Rivieres, it's very demanding, and somehow at the end of the race, it could make a big difference. Okay, now let me show you what it looks like when it's all put together in the car. Here you can see the huge size calipers made by Brembo for Porsche, and you can see the size of the disc and the pad installed. And in the front, you could see the two extremely big entry for air right from the ground that the air is catching for cooling goes right to the disc. And it's extremely important to cool the brakes. Otherwise, if you start boiling the brakes, it could make the difference between winning or finishing second position.
And right now we have Porsches running first and second, but a driver can help his brakes also by the way he shifts the car on a circuit like this, can't he?
Well, yes, you want to use some engine braking. You don't want to brake the drivetrain. But if we look at this interesting driving technique, you want to keep your hand off the shift lever as much as possible. Just use the shift lever and then back up to the steering wheel. He tends not to do that, Stefan Veilleux, which is probably why he's second.
Scott Maxwell is into the pits on lap 25. That'll drop him from 3rd to 11th.
He was going the whole way and something's gone wrong, but they do have one compulsory pit stop for 60 seconds under the green as we watch Richard Spenard leading handily in his Porsche 944.
And so far he hasn't come in. Oh, goodness. Hold on, Richard.
And there goes Maxwell out into the fray again. 60 seconds is up, I guess, and he's back out. You know, thinking back to these brakes, the Porsche 968 certainly has an advantage with very large mass rotors. The more mass you have in the brake, the more heat you can dissipate. It amazes me that the 944 goes just as fast as it does because it does have smaller brakes.
Meanwhile, in touring class, coming out of pit lane is the Nissan NX2000 of the Boyer brothers, and this is Normand now behind the wheel and leading in touring as we go back to the second place, Stéphane Veilleux.
And Veilleux's catching up to a group here, which includes Jocelyn Hebert and in the Eagle Talon, and of course the Camaro group, the Camaro and Firebirds, having a great battle.
Oh, my goodness, he hangs it out as it gets a little loose.
It's a hot day, and that way you're going to overheat the tires, and he'll have to drive a little bit slower to bring those tires back.
How much of a problem is running from asphalt to the concrete like we see right there and then back on again?
It's difficult. The concrete offers a little more grip. The asphalt offers less.
And there we get a look as Stéphane Veilleux got it loose. The back end fishtailed, but he was able to bring it back under control.
The biggest problem there is he's overheating his tires, and he's going to cost him in time. That Denon Porsche of Richard Spenard isn't costing anything, though. He's really got a huge margin. It's going to be very, very tough. The only way Richard could lose this race is if he loses it himself.
And it's not uncommon for drivers to lose it themselves and make the mistake. Sometimes you wonder if you're more apt to make a mistake when you have no pressure than when you really have to fully concentrate.
You're absolutely right. But I don't think Richard's going to make any mistakes today.
We ride along with the leader in sports class. This is Jocelyn Hebert, the Eagle Talon, and up ahead, of course, is Stéphane Veilleux. Interesting now the comparison between these two cars and exit speeds in the straight, as we see Hebert coming into pit lane for his mandatory 60-second stop.
Now this is a routine stop, and it's very interesting, Vic, because they're going to stop and wait for 60 seconds. If you wanted to screw your brakes up, you'd stop in pit lane and wait 60 seconds and just let those brakes boil. He's going to have to be careful leaving the pits. And there, in that red and white Firebird, is our good friend Terry McDonald-Cadieux. She's now in 3rd place, Vic.
Terry McDonald and her Firebird teams with Rolf von Engelbrechten in their car, this Firebird. And when she's not racing, of course, she is one of the IndyCar pace car drivers. Those beautiful cars you see at every IndyCar event in Toronto and Vancouver. She's one of the drivers. Now we ride along with Greg Wilkins in his 93 Chevrolet out of Markham, Ontario. What has he got, a shift light?
That's right. That's right.
I only remember seeing those on old VWs.
Useful help. Greg's doing a pretty decent job here, working his way up, and he's shadowing Stefan Veilleux. And not far behind him is Petrov in the number 4 Firebird.
It's an interesting thing about endurance racing, isn't it? I mean, it isn't conventional in as much as when you have all these pit stops, fields change, leaders take over, it can really be quite the event. I mean, you'll get to the end of 66 laps. Now coming in is Benoit Theetge. He is, of course, the leader in sports after 4 races, but Jocelyn Hebert right now is the leader of the race, so he could fall back here if he doesn't pick it up a bit.
Notice he's sitting in the pits for 60 seconds with his foot on the brake. Really should take his foot off the brake pedal, because if you leave your foot on the brake, you just create a heat sink and you can cause brake failure. As you leave the pits, they'll pump the brake pedal up again to make sure they got a pedal when they leave. Very hot day.
Benoit Theetge in a 94 Honda Prelude SRV.
And here's Paul Duckworth in number 2, followed closely by number 4, the Petrov Goodwrench Firebird, having a great race. And there comes Maxwell trying to move up. Petrov down there stopped there, and Maxwell's trying to get back behind that slower car, working his way after a pit stop, which of course was a routine pit stop for Maxwell, dropped into 11th space, and now he's working his way back up the field. So Duckworth, Petrov, and there goes Maxwell, and look, right behind them is that 66 Camaro.
And coming out of pit lane, Benoit Theetge in that 94 Honda Prelude. And he appeared to be in pit lane a lot longer than was 60 seconds.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. But you know, 60-second stop. You got to slow down, come in pit lane, got to get going again. So it's a costly stop.
Your leader, though, without a doubt, Richard Spenard here in round 5 of the MAGNA Enduro Series on TSN.
Yeah, Richard Spenard, you got to call him cherry picker. Here he is running the Three Rivers race. He's running away with it. The crowd in Trois-Rivieres probably delighted, and Stefan Veilleux, a tough break for him.
So after 29 of a scheduled 66 laps, Richard Spenard is your leader in Grand Sport. It is Jocelyn Hebert in Sport, the Boyer brothers in Touring. Welcome back to Trois-Rivieres, TSN's coverage, round 5, the MAGNA Enduro Series. From the Hippodrome at Trois-Rivieres, as we ride along with the race leader in Grand Sport, Richard Spenard, and he has a comfortable lead. Second place, Stefan Veilleux. And at this point, Veilleux, all he can do is really just hope for some kind of a break.
A shame for Stefan, because he really looked pretty good at the beginning, but he made some miscues under pressure from Richard Spenard, went up the escape road, had to back up, rejoin the race. A costly mistake. And Spenard now leads comfortably.
And you know, sometimes I think drivers forget, you can't take the racer out. He always wants to go forward, but in an endurance race, he didn't necessarily have to do it then.
He had to pace himself, and he didn't. We're in the pits with Terry McDonald-Cadieux out of the car.
She gets out. Rolf van Engelbrechten will go in, take over, the co-driver of that team.
And right behind them, we have the car of Greg Wilkins.
Kenny Wilden will move in here.
They're doing their change, a slow change. This isn't NASCAR. Doing the best they can.
Now these driver changes as well often require more than the needed 60 seconds. So that's why I think sometimes you'll see drivers go it alone, no?
Vic. But you know, they shouldn't take more than 60 seconds to drop that load of fuel.
Yes, hey, put the wheel back on.
Now what is Kenny Wilden saying
Well,
there?
I think he recognizes that. He's got a 60-second window. You don't need to fill the car up because it's not sufficient to have to fill the whole thing up. He wants the wheel back on and let's go. He can't afford to lose the race in the pits. He probably did.
Now, meanwhile, here is your leader, Richard Spenard, signaling. The left arm comes out. Would he be signaling now to the pit? I'm coming.
Yeah, Radio Spenard says, hey guys, I'm coming in.
Forget the radio. Let them know I'm coming in. Our leader and our second place car have not pitted so far.
And this is going to be interesting strategy here. Will Veilleux follow him in and pace himself that way, or will he take a moment of glory and try and stay out there? Because you're going to figure it's a 60-second window in the pits, Vic, but it takes longer to slow down and come in the pits. And as you pointed out earlier, it's a slow exit onto the racetrack.
One thing to note about pit lane here at Trois-Rivieres, it is not straight. It has a bend to it. It has a right-hand bend, and so depending where you are on pit lane, it's a slower exit.
Well, that's right. You just can't sprint down the pit lane and carry the speed because you got a right turn right after you.
Here is the second place car. Stéphane Veilleux coming up on the number 67. This is David Thorndike from Oshawa, Ontario, in his 93 Trans Am.
Veilleux's by him pretty comfortably inside, but not that comfortably. And here comes Richard.
All right, Spenard. Now he is down towards the exit end. You see him make the little right-hander now. The clock will go on starting now. 60 seconds, and there's his crew chief.
They're pretty relaxed, but notice also his brake lights went out. Richard's savvy enough to take his foot off the brake pedal when he stopped in the pits so he doesn't heat sink those brakes.
So here's your question answered. You wondered if Veilleux would in fact come in and keep pace that way. No, he's going to try and put some distance between himself and Spenard this way.
Yeah, this is a strategy that probably won't work for him. Better to come in and keep him in sight.
But by the same token, by the time he gets in, I mean, sure, he could see him. He might just see him leave the pits, though.
Well, let's see who wins.
There goes Richard Spenard. His 60-second stop, mandatory, is up, and now he takes up the chase, and for the first time is running in second place.
McDonald Cadieux is also in front, so I guess unless he put McDonald Cadieux a lap down, he may well be back further than that.
And remember now, it's Rolf van Engelbrecken driving that Cadieux Firebird. But there is your leader, Stéphane Veilleux. Did he put enough distance in now? Remember, he still has to stop.
Well, he's got a great car, and as you saw earlier, massive brakes on that 968. There's no way a 968 and a 944 should be equivalent by any stretch of the imagination. So my guess is that Veilleux's got a chance, but he's going to have to drive it hard, and he's got to keep it together. And that's the magic of driving at Three Rivers, because, as I said earlier, you can overdrive the car.
Now, when you say a 968 shouldn't be, these two Porsches should not be equal. Where's the difference?
Well, the 968 has more power. It has bigger brakes. I mean, it's a newer model of car, but maybe the difference is Richard Spenard.
And just his knowledge, particularly of this track, do you think?
Well, knowledge and a good car, and they've obviously got it finessed very well, and you can't argue with the results. A yellow flag as they slow down coming out. There's a car stopped on the racetrack.
Now we ride along with the leader in sports class. This is Jocelyn Hebert.
Having a great dice with Maxwell. He's been doing this all race long, racing with the cars ahead of him in a superior class,
yeah, but
taking advantage of his lighter car with...
Something doesn't sound right here, does it? As we go back now.
Well, he's in the lead.
Yeah, he's in his lead in class, but something doesn't sound right. This is Richard Spenard currently in second place, trying to chase down Stéphane Veilleux. There he is, the leader. Still hasn't pitted, though.
Now he's coming in.
Ah, here he comes. Now, did the strategy pay off? Now watch where he is. He'll come in right here. Now watch for his crew chief. We met him earlier, Andre Godet. Here's Andre. Crew checks tires for wear, for dirt, for cuts. And while they watch their watch, we'll keep an eye on and look back down the track for Richard Spenard. Boy, this seems like an awfully long 60 seconds, and here comes Richard Spenard. And there goes Richard Spenard back into the lead, so it hasn't paid off for Stéphane Veilleux.
Well, you're not going to gobble up that amount of time, particularly when the pit spot stops at time.
Oh, Stéphane Veilleux having difficulty maybe getting it into gear. Problems for crew chief Andre Godet.
Sounds like he started in third gear.
Let's go down to Michelle Craig, find out if there's any problems with Stéphane Veilleux.
Is there a problem with the transmission?
Yes, there's a problem with transmission. I don't know if it's going to last. I hope so. It seems to be getting stuck in second gear.
Not interesting, so there you go.
So he started in third, and in the meantime, there goes King Richard, looking for a way through the traffic, but really a tremendous margin. Now, they obviously don't have radios if they're using hand signals, so they can't tell Richard to cool it because Stéphane's got transmission trouble. But it looks like all he has to do is stay alive and win the race.
Your leader now is number 33 in touring. That is Bob Armstrong, as the Boyer brothers came into pit lane and have given up the lead to Armstrong from North Gower, Ontario, in his 91 Nissan NX 2000.
Not far behind him, Vic, is my favorite 1992 Camaro, number 69, driven by John Heinrichsey now, making up some ground.
Armstrong in his Nissan is the touring points leader after 4 events, ahead of Ron Gittelen and his VW.
1992 Camaro is doing a heck of a job.
Considering the age of the car, is that it?
Well, yeah, it's an older car, but you know, John Heinrichsey has a record of many, many years of driving Corvettes for the Morrison team in 24-hour races.
Oh, we have problems right here. This is the number 89. That's Jocelyn Hebert, your leader in sports class, and he looks like he's burning them up.
Well, it looks like he's out of brake pads completely, and there's an example. He's out of brakes now because he was spending too much time dicing with those larger cars, having fun, not conserving his automobile. And if you hear it, you were right earlier, you referred to that. It's metal to metal. I mean, he's got nothing left. This guy is looking for a wall to hit.
Down into turn 1 and through.
Well, he's using the engine as he downshifts to slow it down. Can't accelerate as much anymore. And the pedal, he's pumping it up. But I mean, once you drive the fat material out, now you're metal to metal, you'll push the pistons right out of the calipers eventually. That's brake fluid coming out there, my guess. Eventually, he's going to have no brake fluid, no brakes at all, unless he uses the handbrake.
Meanwhile, no problems for your leader. That is Richard Spenard, and looking back, here comes the second place car, Stéphane Veilleux, making his way nicely around some slower cars in other classes through turn 1.
He's made up some ground on Spenard, but probably because Spenard is pacing himself, not that he's so competitive anymore if he's not using second gear.
Back on board with your leader in sports class, Jocelyn Hebert. We know he has brake problems. Boy, do we ever know he has brake problems. Looking for something to hit, and he hits the tires. And well, that is it for Jocelyn Hebert.
It happened, Vic. The pad material was over, the metal went into the caliper, he went the pistons out of the caliper, all the brake fluid's gone, no brakes, and it's over.
And taking over the lead then in sports class is Benoit Theetge in a 94 Honda Prelude. And Benoit Theetge is the leader after 4 races in the championship, and there is a disappointed Jocelyn Hebert.
Veilleux still, he's within striking distance, he can see Spenard, but there's no way.
There's the number 16. That is your new leader in sports. Benoit Theetge just ahead of Stéphane Veilleux, as it is Jocelyn Hebert tossing his helmet in through the open window. Back with our leader in Grand Sports, that is Richard Spenard.
Last lap sign is out, and there's no way that Veilleux is going to make a difference. You can see he's even stuck behind Theetge at this point.
Yeah, in fact, if he's missing a second gear, he's probably nursing this thing home now.
Absolutely, he's got him finished. Second place, still valuable points, and if Spenard isn't doing all these races, he's not in the championship. So Veilleux is playing the best game he can with what he's got left.
And remember, after 4 races coming into Trois-Rivieres, Stéphane Veilleux was the leader in the championship ahead of Van Engelbrechten and Terry McDonald-Cadieux. So second place would still keep him in the lead in terms of the championship. But looking now for his second win after he won in Toronto is Richard Spenard.
A very well judged win for Richard Spenard. The last turn onto the Gilles Villeneuve straightaway and to the stripe. And I guess you got to say, Spenard won this one.
Looking for the checkered flag, raises the hand in acknowledgement. Richard Spenard is your winner here in Trois-Rivieres. And nursing home a car without a second gear, your points leader, Stéphane Veilleux. And boy, nursing it home and limping it across the line is Veilleux.
He just made it good for him. A tough race for Veilleux, but he just managed to have enough car, and across the stripe he goes. And I'm sure the Dicom crew are relieved.
And he may just shut it down right there. The MAGNA Enduro Series on TSN has been brought to you by Prestone. More than just an antifreeze. By Minidisc from Sony, the smaller recordable compact disc. And by Speedy Auto Glass. Over 160 locations across Canada. At Speedy, we care. And congratulations to the BMW team of Peter Lockhart and Nick Moran. Unlucky here at Trois-Rivieres, but they were still lucky as they've won 2 tickets to any of 150 cities served by Canadian Airlines International.
Thanks, Canadian. We're going to go to San Francisco. LA. San Francisco.
Canadian Airlines International, proud sponsor of the MAGNA Enduro Series, serving 150 destinations across 5 continents. For the second time this season, the crew of Richard Spenard can celebrate a win. First Toronto, and now here in Trois-Rivieres. Richard Spenard wins comfortably over Stéphane Veilleux. Never challenged, really. Scott Maxwell, third. The Invader, Stuart Jones from Massachusetts, fourth.
Well, it was exciting. You know, racing in Trois-Rivieres is always fun. There's so many people in the grandstand, which is sometimes, you know, we don't see as many people. But the first 6 laps were very exciting because I had a good battle with Peter Lockhart and Stéphane Veilleux. And finally, Stéphane got kind of lured into a very slippery situation and basically missed corner 1, and I kept going. And from that point, it was a fairly easy race for me because we built up a 15-second lead, and it shrunk at the end, but it was really pacing myself to finish the race and then do it fine.
However, the second place finish by Veilleux keeps him still 52 points ahead of Rolf van Engelbrechten in the overall Grand Sport Championship standings. Meanwhile, in sports class, Benoit Theetge, in his 94 Honda Prelude, took advantage of some burned up brakes of Jocelyn Hebert to win here in Trois-Rivieres. And the win certainly will keep Theetge ahead of Hebert in the championship standings.
The first 15 minutes we were able to catch Hebert, who was I think 4 or 5 cars behind us on qualifying time, and we were able to catch him. And just before the pit stop, I passed him on the back stretch down there.
And this is how it ended for Jocelyn Hebert, his 95 Eagle Talon, using up all his brakes, finally needing the tire wall at the end of the Boulevard du Carmel to stop. So Benoit Theetge wins his 4th race in 5 and stretches his lead in the overall championship. Meanwhile, in touring, Bob Armstrong, after winning in Toronto and Mont Tremblant, adds a win here at Trois-Rivieres for his third of the season. Bob Armstrong from North Gower, Ontario, in his 91 Nissan NX 2000, is your winner, ahead of Des Hockley. And Armstrong, who came into this race at Trois-Rivieres leading by 10 points over Ron Goodlin, stretches his lead on top of the championship standings now to 25 over Giddelen from Brampton, Ontario. Congratulations to all our winners here in Trois-Rivieres. Now on behalf of John Powell and our entire crew, I'm Vic Roeder. Thanks for joining us. Till we talk with you again, goodbye from Trois-Rivieres.
Like and follow for more.